This program is brought to you by...
Satisfy your need for speed, because the best does not rest.
The Prophet was coming back from a real jihad after having fought with the infidels. And he told his followers that we are going from the lesser holy war to the greater holy war. And the companions were, I'm sure, perplexed. They asked, we're coming from a real jihad, what do you mean by the greater? He said the greater jihad is the fight against the nafs. This is the office where we work. My father is also an architect. He's the principal of the firm. I'm also a partner. So this is like a workshop, this office. Keep learning and developing and exploring forms. So much so that now slowly we, from certain types of projects like houses and things, some projects, religious projects especially, we don't use steel anymore. Neither do we use cement. We use something which is better than cement. It used to be used here. It's a Mughal chuna from Qasur. This is a mosque project I'm working on at the moment. It's been a very long process of designing, looking at the older precedents and analyses, and then we were talking about the difficulty of leaving the ego aside, which is impossible for most of us, obviously. So that, in fact, that ultimately is the purpose of religion. Basic belief one gets from a very small age, from one's mother or grandmother, and one's taught how to say the prayers in one. But as I grew older, in my early teens perhaps, there was a need to know the deeper or more why do certain things and so on. In that connection, because of my father, he was a complete atheist, and he entered into a project to design the Data Darbar Mosque. So whatever the project is, for example, I did an interior for a bookshop in Lahore. Try to use traditional design principles and very often materials, at least. For example, this is a house. Before that, he was asked to join the Aga Khan steering committee. There was a new award for architecture for Islamic countries. So he was asked to be one of the judges. He said, I don't know anything about any Islamic architecture and so on. So he started to read. Many very good books have come out in the recent few decades, which throw light upon the deeper underpinnings of Islam in English. There have always been books in Urdu, Farsi and Arabic, but the elites of our country have been cut off from that tradition. So they have to relearn what is their own. A lot of this we've learned from master craftsmen. For example, this Haji Abdulaziz Sahab, who's passed away now. This is a drawing in the background is by Haji Abdulaziz when he was 82. These are drawings by a master craftsman from Multan. So that was his theoretical introduction. And then he entered a competition to design a mosque. And while designing, he had to suggest certain Quranic calligraphy. For that, he had to read and select from the Quran. And behind every form, there's a whole method, a vocabulary, names, proportions, philosophy even. So he had a change of heart. For myself, I was already a believer and tried to practice. But the philosophical and the deeper direction was given by the library that he started to build up. And his sort of entry to Islam was through Sufistic writings. This is a small library, half and half. Half the books are Uzma's, half are mine. This is something we got from Hafiz Sahab. It is, according to someone, at least 300 to 400 years old. Basically, this style is supposed to be pre-Mughal. Our first sort of activity was to set up this small trust, GoshaeNur Trust, with the express purpose of providing a platform where scholars and people who were searching for answers from this deeper aspect of religion. A piece from our last exhibition. The first activity we did was a calligraphic exhibition. This is part of a set of two, Haq and Hu, based on a Turkish style of calligraphy. being artists ourselves and interested in traditional art. So we thought we should produce a classical correct piece of art which had been developed over more than 1,000 years by some of the greatest masters of calligraphy, most of whom were also Sufis, as recent research has shown that perhaps up to 80%.
She's too big for this.
Tala is a friend and he's one of the trustees for Goshae-Noor because it was a group of friends who set it up. We have many common interests.
I think my whole journey started off with finding out who I really was. I mean, this was a question of identity for me. Because I was again brought up in an environment where being British was really preferred, more English than the English, more loyal than the king. If you can be in the upper class of so-called the English-speaking upper class of society, then you've done it. There was something wrong with it. I had some feeling there. And I just started this journey, actually, this quest for who I was. And so I went into history. And when I went into history, I not only went into my own, let's say, family or clan, but I went into religion, into Hinduism, for example, into spirituality. I had to. I mean, because Islam, for me, whatever I've learned, was never that there was this differentiation that this is spiritual Islam and this is Islam. Spirituality to me is an integral part of Islam. I mean, Islam is spiritual. You know, when you start this quest and spirituality becomes a part of that quest, it is surprising and very fascinating, and I'm sure everyone will discover this for themselves. You then start meeting people like